Hey guys, welcome back to the casa. As you guys know, I generally can't sit still. I'm always doing something. I'm kind of like Jordan from Real Genius, only not nearly as smart. I always wanted Jordan to be my girlfriend because I always thought she was cool. Anyway, so I figured I'd share with you one of my ongoing projects that I started a little bit back. I've been waiting on all the parts to come in, and I finally got most of them. So I wanted to go ahead and throw this out there and share it with you. I'll do videos as this build goes along to show you what my progress is. But here's kind of the start of it. And what this is I got this idea from watching someone on YouTube by the name of Gray Fox, and he's making what he calls the Division SHD cyber deck, and in turn that's based off of a project by two different projects actually. One by Doscher called the Off-Grid Cyber Deck Raspberry Pi Recovery Kit, and the other one is Evan Meaney, and he calls his a crash recovery device. And basically the concept for all of these is the same thing. And I'm just kind of following along with his. I've got some changes I want to make to mine, and we'll talk about that. But what this is, the idea behind it is basically it's a computer in a box, and it has a bunch of different information in it and a bunch of different useful software tools in it that you don't need to be connected to the grid. You don't need to be connected to a power source. It's got its own internal supply. The computer itself will act as a network computer, and you can access a bunch of different stuff offline, and have just like a ready-made available information source. So in that kind of idea, if you will, he's basing his off of some of the games that he plays, as far as the design and the name. I'm going to be calling mine the G.E.C.K. Now, if anybody plays Fallout series of games, they know what a G.E.C.K is. G.E.C.K stands for Garden of Eden Creation Kit, and it's basically an object in the game that allows you to restart civilization. And that's really kind of what this thing is. So let me show you what I got here. This is a 1300 Pelican case. They're not cheap, but the nice thing about it is it's impact resistant and it's watertight. You close it up, and nothing gets in. And it's a nice little case to be able to carry around, what have you. So let me open it up and show you what I got in here. So this is the idea. Basically, you have a keyboard and you have a computer system all in one case. It's based off of a Raspberry Pi. I'm using a Raspberry Pi 4. It's probably a little overpowered for what I'm doing here, but I wanted to use the Raspberry Pi 4 because it allows me to do a bunch of different experiments and stuff. Not just with this, I can use it for other things, what have you. So yesterday, finally, the keyboard came, and I'll be honest with you, the keyboard is is absolutely the most expensive part in this. This keyboard was not cheap. It was like $245 for the keyboards, and it was a special order, but it fits. That's the reason. Now, one of the things you'll notice on this keyboard right off the bat there are no number keys. You don't see any number keys on this thing whatsoever, and it's got a shortened space bar. But what it's got here is it's got two buttons that allow you to go up and down levels on this keyboard. So you program keys to be able to do other things. Now, eventually what I may do is get some custom keys made that will allow me to show what's on each level, so that I don't have to remember it. But in the interim, what I'm going to do is I'm going to print out a card and laminate it, and keep it in here so that you know what the keys are. Back in my days in the Army, one of the things a lot of equipment came with was like a little pamphlet that was generally cable tied or something to the equipment that was just a bunch of little laminated cards that had different information. So that's what I'm going to do for now. But this is really nice because it is programmable. You can change the key functions to whatever you want them to be. It's a micro USB into the case, and there'll be a cable that runs into the case. I haven't done any of the wiring yet. I just got all the parts, and I'm just kind of test fitting them. Now the inserts into this. And this is made, in case everybody wants, and I'll put a list down below. This is made by Plank. Is who the keyboard is made by. Takes a few weeks because they are custom made, because you get to pick what types of keys and what types of switches you use. So it takes a little bit for it to ship. But what's cool about this is it's all based off of 3D printed inserts. So I can change this around anytime I want to. So like the keyboard tray is just a press fit. It fits in the top. If I got another keyboard, I could redesign this. This just happens to work because this is the keyboard that they used. And since I knew it would fit, I went ahead and ordered that same keyboard. So there's the keyboard insert. If you break it, print a new one. Bob's your uncle. Now, this is his original setup for his display. There's some things I'm going to change on this, and we'll go through some of that in a second. Reading some of the suggestions on his video and things, things like that he's done different. So, or that people suggested different things, and I want to try some different things. Based on some of the connections that he has and what have you, but we'll get into that. So let's pull this out, and again, it's all press fit, so you can just pull this out. We're going to go ahead and set the box aside, and we'll flip this over, and I'll show you what it looks like on the inside. Now, like I say, I have not wired any of this. It's not wired up yet. There's some changes I want to make to it, and some changes to the case that I want to make. But basically, this is the battery sits in here. It's all wired up. You have all your switches and stuff. And underneath of here is your Raspberry Pi. And like I say, I'm using a Raspberry Pi 4. Get my iFixit kit. And I'll pull these screws out real quick. And again, like I say, because this is all 3D printed, if I break something or I tear something up or I want to change something design-wise, all I got to do is just, go into CAD, create my own, file of the changes I want to make, print it out, and there you go. So this is the battery carrier. It also kind of holds everything in and protects everything. This is a spacer. I don't have it screwed down because there's stuff I want to do to it and want to modify it. And then in here, we have a Raspberry Pi 4. And the Raspberry Pi 4 is connected to a 7-inch Raspberry Pi touchscreen. So I don't need a mouse. I can use just the screen if I want to. Now, I may include in my box like a handheld trackball mouse or something like that. I haven't decided yet. This is on here. This is one of the changes I'm going to be making to mine. Now with the Raspberry Pi, for those of you who know, it's a computer all on one board. It operates off of an SD card. You put an SD card in there, the whole operating system and memory and everything is on that. The problem I found with it was that with it in here, you can't access that SD card to get it in and get it out. So if your SD card gets corrupted, you're taking the whole thing apart, having to put it back together. So what I got, and this comes from, the idea for this comes from my my 3D printer. On the 3D printers that I have, they also use a micro SD card. This is an extender cable that goes to a regular SD card and plugs into a micro SD, and it just, slips in. And it kind of saves wear and tear on the micro SD card slot, and it's a little easier to handle, and the SD cards are a little easier to find sometimes, what have you. So my thought process is I want to find a space somewhere in the front of this panel, and kind of mount this so that I can take the SD card in and out without having to pull it open. But you know, that requires redesigning this whole faceplate, which I'm going to do anyway because some of the other changes I want to make. So then you've got, and the way he's got his set up, he's got two USB ports for input for power. One of them is to charge the internal battery, which is just one of those phone charger battery packs that does a quick charge on your phone and stuff. They provide 5 volts to USB. Everything in here runs on 5 volts, so these are really handy for that. The other one is an external power that he's got to a switch so that he can switch between internal and external power. One of the comments that was made on his videos, and I've been playing around with some ideas, is USB inputs just for 5 volt. One, takes up a fair bit of room in here. Two, it's not an overly common. I mean, it's a lot more common now because of everybody with car chargers and things like that. But maybe you want to hook up to a battery straight, and then that's just straight wires. So one of the things that was suggested as a change are these banana plugs. And I have used them in the past because, you know, for instrumentation testing and stuff like that, a lot of panels have these banana plug inserts. But here's the thing, they still take up, as you can see, they still take up a fair bit of room on this panel. And if I had 2 of them side by side, one for internal, one for external, I'm not really gaining any space by changing these out. So I'm thinking about making some changes to the internal wiring to have just one input that I can tell it whether it's external or whether it's to charge the battery. That's something I have to play with the wiring. I haven't really kind of decided on that yet. One of the other things that came up on, not on the discussions, but just in looking at it, he uses a switch that is a positive locking switch, either in one position or the other. Those switches are $25 a piece, and there's 4 of them. That means $100 just for the switches. These are just they're on non-on switches, same as the ones he's using, except that they're not positive lock switches. They cost me $3 each, so I'm saving a lot of money there. My thought process being that once these are being used and somebody's got them turned on, you're not going to be messing with them anyway. So I don't know that I necessarily need the positive lock switches. So I just went with regular switches. We've got an audio jack for headphones or out to normal speakers or what have you. You have 3 USB ports. Now these all say they're USB 3s. They're not. One of them is USB 2. 2 of them are USB 3s. And then you have a connection that you can go from here, which is your LAN connection, into a switch so that I can connect multiple computers up and have this be a server system. Now the other thing that he does with his is he used on a Raspberry Pi. You have a bunch of inputs and outputs that you can software tell it what they are, and for that he was using a mil-spec plug. Now, having dealt with mil-spec plugs for years, I know from personal experience they get corroded, they get iffy, the threads get messed up on them. They eventually become a pain in the ass to try and connect and disconnect and work with. Now, on his video, it looks like he's using one that is a male mil-spec connector. So my first thought process was, what if I do it with a female mil-spec connector? Then if these go bad, I can at least just plug a wire into the holes and be done. And that's kind of what my thought process was. Now he used a 6-pin. I'm using a 7-pin just because the extra pin, for the extra pin, it doesn't take up any more room. But it got me to thinking. And if I'm going to change this around and I have to redesign this panel, and I've got, and the mil-spec is a pain in the butt. what I think I'm going to do is, if you look on the Raspberry Pi, it's one of these 40-pin connectors. I ordered, and it hasn't come yet. It's one of the few things that hasn't come. I ordered a panel feed through for a 40-pin ribbon. So what I'm thinking is, if I eliminate this, right, I can put a strip down here with a 40-pin. Then I have access to all of that. And if I do this and change this over to a different kind of connector, maybe I've got enough room in there that somewhere on this face I can add this SD card. Now, the other thing, a lot of people made suggestions on different devices you should hook up to it. Now, one of what he's using, and let's go through this first. Okay, so you got the SD card that runs the operating system on the Pi. I got a 512 gigabyte. It's the biggest card you can get right now without, getting stupid money and what have you, and having to worry about fake cards. So, I wanted as much room to store as much stuff as I could. This is a GPS dongle. One of the pieces of software he has on his is a GPS software, so he's got all the maps stored. Thought process being that even if electrical grid goes down here, the satellites are probably still working. You can plug this in. You've got your GPS. You can locate yourself on the maps, and you can store the maps offline in the system. So GPS. This, a lot of people said this is a really crappy microphone. He had a microphone in there, just thrown in the box. He said everybody says it's a crappy microphone. I'm gonna check it out. We'll see, but we're gonna try it out. And then, of course, along with that, all the pieces, parts, cables that you need to hook this stuff up. This is all going to be wired in, and we'll go from there. But some of the things that were suggested. Oh, and he also had he's got a USB. It's just in a case so that it doesn't get damaged, what have you, to store any media on, like music and that sort of thing. So what the idea of this is, like I say, is it's to store information. And I have a bunch of PDFs of my own. He recommends a bunch of sites that have a bunch of how to do things PDFs. How to can, how to build a house, how to plumb, how to do a septic. All these different things that are in PDF form. That if you can't look them up on the internet if the internet's not there. So he's got them stored on this. You can actually there's a website that you can go to and download the wiki. And it's the entirety of Wikipedia up to the last backup. And you can download that. And it's a fairly good sized chunk of memory, but it's the entirety of Wikipedia. I also happen to have some DVDs that have the entire collection of Mother Earth News articles in them. They're all on PDF. I'm going to throw those in there, throw a bunch of other things, maps, what have you. There's also a website that, I'm trying to think of the name of it, and I can't think of it right now. That basically any book that is out of copyright, and I'll put the link down below for it. I can't think of the name of the website right now. But any book that's out of copyright, they're turning into a text document. And I'm going to download that and put it in here. Now, the thing with that is it takes up a lot of space. So that memory card, you've got to be picky and choosy on what you put in there. And that's all he's using his SD card. One of the suggestions that I've seen kicked around a lot of places is an SSD drive. So I got a 1 terabyte SSD drive. I think there's enough room in this case that I can just mount it in here somewhere, and that gives me a terabyte worth of storage. Now it's going to take a little bit more power probably and what have you. I've got to play with whether this brick is going to be good enough or not, and if it's not, I'm going to do some research into something else. It may even mean going to an external battery supply at some point, what have you. But now I have 1 terabyte storage of SSD. The thing with that is in order to connect this, that's going to take up one of my USB slots. Now the Raspberry Pi has 4, but you only have 3 available because one's being used for the keyboard. This means I lose another USB slot if I use this. But I think the trade-off is enough that this is well worth doing. It still gives me 2 of them that I can use for other things. If worst comes to worst, USB extender, and there you go. So there's that. I did not see any fans in his setup, and this thing is going to be enclosed. It's going to have a lot of heat. So I'm going to look at putting some fans in it. We'll see where they'll fit at. Now the other one that a lot of people suggest, and you see it everywhere. Everybody suggests you should do this. What this is an SDR. SDR is software defined radio. And basically what it is you hook this up to a computer, and it comes with a little dongle, and I'm not going to take it out of the pack. But this is the one I got. I mean, there's a bunch of them out there. This is just the one I ordered. You hook this into your USB drive, or into your USB port, right? And it comes with a little dipole antenna and all the fixings. Now this is a cheap, crappy antenna. This isn't the best. Obviously, this is not going to fit in that case. I will have to store it separately. But you hook this up, and your computer becomes the brains for operating a radio. And you can do AM, FM, shortwave, satellite, what have you, with this receiver, as long as you have the right antenna for the frequencies that you're using. So this seemed to be kind of a no-brainer. Everybody suggested it. I'm going to add it to my kit. I'm going to add the software into this, so I will be able to, get, emergency radio. I'll be able to get AM, FM, what have you. So there it is. Between the 1 terabyte of storage that I can put all the manuals and stuff on, and some of the other externals that I can hook to this, I think it's going to be a fun little kit. I mean, I'm not planning for the end of the world necessarily, but it'd be nice to have it if the weather goes out the power goes out for a week around here, and sometimes it has gone out for a little while. It'll give me the ability to get on and play some games or do something or whatever. And if I grab myself one of those little flexible solar panel rechargers for phones and stuff, I should be able to recharge this battery and use it. So this is the project I've got going. Like I say, it's in the very beginning stages. I've just got everything kind of fit in here, and this is all the stuff that's going to go in that Pelican box. So what I'll do is I'm going to do another video when I've got this rewired, or got this all wired up, and once I've kind of redesigned the front panel, and I'll show you where we stand with it, and then we'll go through, looking at the software and stuff to go in it. All right. So there it is, guys. Anyway, just another one of my crazy little projects. So I'll talk to you later. Bye.